Good morning, just after 6, Robert and Erin, 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, and way down there. Erin, local news up next, and lots of it.
Talking tax fraud, some say it may have happened. What happened about emergency crime situation in District F? The council took a vote, and we'll also talk about delivering alcohol right to your home.
So this possible tax fraud stems from, if I understand it, the $189,000 fine that the city incurred from the state at the end of 2018. Have I got that right?
Yeah, I think the fines were waived, though.
But that's... they may be rethinking that.
Yeah, maybe so.
Talk about that and Reverend... Somebody called him Code Red Green last night. I went, wow.
Whoa!
Fletcher in sports, traffic, and weather. It's all coming up this hour right here on KEEL.
KEEL Morning Report, now on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Did the city of Shreveport commit tax fraud? We get details from Matt Parker.
According to the Shreveport Times, the city of Shreveport may have knowingly filed false payroll tax forms to avoid paying penalties and interest. In an email exchange between Councilman John Nicholson and City CAO Sharika Fields-Jones, Nicholson says that an external auditor made the discovery and that immediate action needs to be taken. However, the mayor's communication manager denies the tax fraud allegations and says the city filed late in 2018 and the state has waived those penalties. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
The Shreveport Council voted 5-2 to approve Councilman James Green's request to declare an emergency in District F.
I was elected to serve the people in that district. They've asked me for some help. They said, whatever you can do, Councilman, we need to do it.
Mayor Adrian Perkins supports the effort.
Councilman Green, who is way more intimately involved in his district than I am, thinks that this will help with economic development and safety and perception, then again, I'm going to support him in any way I can.
The measure encourages Shreveport police to work with other law enforcement agencies and church leaders, along with residents, to rid the district of rampant crime. The Shreveport Council once again delays voting on a proposed ordinance that would require grocery stores to have a separate building to sell hard liquor. Chief Ben Raymond says there has been some confusion.
Specifically, when you talk about alcohol ordinances, you generally are talking about beer and wine in one category and liquor in another category. So this wording for high alcohol content confuses the matter because all three of those products could be considered high alcohol content. So we think it'd be easier just to remove that.
The ordinance has been delayed so it can be reworded and reworked. Speaking of alcohol, the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control now accepting permit applications from businesses who want to make home delivery of alcohol. ATC expects the first round of permits will be approved and issued in early August. Under the new law, restaurants, grocery stores, and package stores will be able to deliver low-level, factory-sealed alcoholic beverages. A businessman pleads guilty to fraud charges. Gregory Smith pleads guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. He convinced clients to invest $3.5 million into historic Chinese bonds. However, not only are the bonds no longer recognized by the Chinese government, but Smith and his partners allegedly split the $3.5 million between themselves. Smith faces 5 to 7 years in prison and could be forced to pay over $1 million in restitution. A fatal crash on Highway 79 kills 3 in East Texas. A truck driven by William Oldfield attempted to pass a slow-moving 18-wheeler. When he tried to go around the big rig, he was hit by an SUV driven by Jamie Bowen. Both drivers died in the wreck. A passenger in the SUV, Robert Harthcock, was also killed. Another woman's been arrested for her alleged role in the murder of a Benton man, Shauna Jones, accused of being a principal to second-degree murder. Investigators say she played a role in the shooting death of Caleb Pippinger outside his home back in March. Perry Norcross, the former teacher accused of sexually molesting children, has requested that his trial be moved out of Bossier Parish. Norcross faces dozens of charges, including video voyeurism, molestation, and rape. Norcross's attorney presented 92 pages of articles from local news outlets covering his arrest. His attorney says this is the most pretrial publicity he's ever seen. The motion was deferred by the judge, who said that he wanted to wait until potential jurors were interviewed before making a ruling. It's Mueller time. The former special counsel in the Russia probe, Robert Mueller, testifies before House committees for about 5 hours today. And another fat-shaming story today. Forever 21 is under fire for sending out Atkins diet bars in orders submitted online for plus-sized orders. I'm Erin McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
.107 FM, 710 KEEL. Time for traffic. Here's Ruben.
Starting things off looking nice and clear for your early morning drive to work, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-20 westbound near the Texas state line due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at the Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
The high pressure over the Central Plains continues to remain in control of our weather. Beautiful weather expected to remain with us here through the rest of the week. Maybe a pop-up shower over the weekend. Sunshine today, 87. Clear tonight, 67. Sunshine tomorrow, high 90. Friday, sunny skies, 92. Richard Wettig, the Weather Channel.
1017 FM 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. The Keel app is always a free download presented by Office Furniture Source. You got your mic over there, kid?
I do.
We haven't done this in a while. I thought about this just as the intro music was playing.
Oh, God.
1, 2, 3.
New York City.
Oh, y'all leave me alone. Y'all
Swamp
must have
gal.
had fun while I was gone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Holly go lightly down
Oh, boy.
there. Isn't it amazing that the same guy that wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's, Truman Capote, also wrote In Cold Blood? Wow.
That is
Yeah.
odd. Yes, I agree.
He had an interesting career.
To say the least. Speaking of interesting, segue. What the heck now? Okay, going back about, what was it, 30, 45 days, the story came out that the city had been fined $189,000 in 2 separate incidents by the state of Louisiana for failing to fill out the proper tax forms for city employees. 189 grand. Then yesterday, we see a story in the Times. Sarah McNeil nails it, I guess. What's the latest? What was in the Times? What's the news?
Well, there are some claims that some of the documentation was intentionally filled out improperly.
Now, this is not some kind of wild claim that just out of left field or blind sources. A lot of this has to do with Councilman John Nicholson, right?
Yes, there are emails that say
Between Nicholson and city CAO Sharika Fields Jones.
You bet.
Okay,
absolutely.
back to you. Sorry.
And they're saying that the documents were filed and filled out improperly to avoid the penalties and fines. And the claims are the city may have committed tax fraud. The mayor's communications manager says that is absolutely not true.
When we say the city, we don't mean you and me. We don't mean the sanitation department.
No.
We don't mean the current administration.
Folks, well, people that still work there are still there in the finance department.
But this happened. Let's clarify this.
This allegedly happened.
This came to light. No, I'm talking about the $189,000 fine that may or may not have been waived by the state, now we discover.
Right.
The $189,000 fine is fact, and it stems from, it was in 2019, and the fines were levied in November and December. I'm sorry, 2018. Apologies.
Right.
2018. And the fines to the city by the state were levied in 2 sort of doses.
Yes.
In November and December of last year, when Miss Ollie was still in office.
Right.
Now, a couple of months ago, less than that, what was it, a month ago, we had Miss Ollie on, former Mayor Ollie Tyler.
Yes.
And we asked her all those questions about, what did you know?
We didn't have her on. We had her. I talked to her on the phone.
Yeah, that was it. Go ahead. What do you recall from that conversation?
She essentially said that she had no knowledge of it. She should have known about it. She should have been briefed, but was not. And that there could have been, an explanation that, like I told you, that somebody that handled these kind of things was gone, and it should have been handled by somebody else, but wasn't. Now we're learning in these emails that perhaps some folks high up in the finance department may have filled out the forms inaccurately or falsely. One of the claims that Mr. Nicholson says the city, and I'm quoting, purposely filed false federal payroll tax forms, according to draft findings from an external auditor. And he says, quote, those responsible need to be fired right away.
And this was in communications too. City CAO, Chief Administrative Officer Sharika Fields Jones. And she responded.
I don't have that right in front of me. Hang on a minute.
Sorry.
It's in the Times. I believe it's in the Times this morning. She says she's spoken to several members of the council, and we intend. Excuse me. That's Nicholson's response. it's disjointed, so I'd have to put it
Okay,
in
I'm
the
sorry.
right order. I don't
yeah,
have it.
kinda
I don't
threw
have it
that
in the right order. It's disjointed in the piece in the Times.
I thought you had that up in front of you.
No, I don't have it
apologize.
right in front of me.
Okay.
No, I just had a piece of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll go to break. We can pull that up. We can get into more detail about that back and forth between Nicholson and Ms. Jones when we get back. How's that sound?
You bet.
101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Oh, yes. And we've still got the state of emergency. Did that actually come up at the meeting yesterday? Did they mention state of emergency, the one requested by Councilman James Green?
Not a state of emergency and not a state of public emergency, just an emergency. We had to change some wording. So we're not going to be a state of emergency.
And
we're not going to be a state of public emergency.
And then
we're just declaring an emergency.
We also got an email from Communications Manager Ben Riggs, the mayor's communications manager, on the proposed $220 million bond issue they want on the ballot in November, right? Some days, their shows just write themselves.
Yep.
101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Ruben.
Starting things off looking nice and clear for your early morning drive to work, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-20 westbound near the Texas state line due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at the Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Well, high pressure over the Central Plains continues to remain in control of our weather. Beautiful weather expected to remain with us here through the rest of the week. Maybe a pop-up shower over the weekend. Sunshine today, 87. Clear tonight, 67. Sunshine tomorrow, high 90. Friday, sunny skies, 92. Richard Wettig of the Weather Channel.
FM 710 Keel Sports Time.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. CBS Sports' John Rothstein reported Tuesday that LSU will play Texas in Austin on January 25th as part of the annual SEC Big 12 Challenge in college basketball. The matchup will bring Tigers head coach Will Wade into battle against his former boss at Virginia Commonwealth, Longhorns head coach Shaka Smart. Arkansas will host TCU, and Texas A&M will entertain Oklahoma State in the annual soiree. The Saints placed Sheldon Rankins on the physically unable to perform list in advance of training camp opening on Friday. Rankins tore his Achilles against the Eagles in the playoffs back on January 13th, but his recovery and rehab has been promising. The PUP designation will allow the Saints to add Rankins to the roster at any point before or after the season begins. New Orleans Pelicans rookie Zion Williamson signed an apparel deal with the Jordan brand for a reported $10 million a year. Michael Jordan said of his new protege, "He told us he would shock the world and asked us to believe him." We do. In Major League Baseball, the Oakland A's rallied from a 2-0 deficit to take a 3-2 lead in the ninth on a 3-run home run from Matt Olson, and then they won it in 11 on a Ramon Laureano ground rule double. Yuli Gurriel, by the way, had his first inside-the-park home run for the Astros. And the Rangers snapped an 8-game losing streak with a 7-2 win over Seattle. Rougned Odor had 2 home runs, and Nomar Mazara reached the third deck with a mashed tater. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
1017 FM, 710 Keel, Robert J. Wright, and Erin McCarty. So, back to this tax thing with the city. We do have Councilman John Nicholson on, what time was it, 7:20?
He's on at 8:20 this morning.
8:20, okay.
And he's going to unravel some of this mess with the finance department and the claims of tax fraud.
Let me sort of bring everybody up to speed real quick. Remember about 30 to 45 days ago when we had the story from... It was the city was fined $189,000 by the state. And that came at the end of 2018 for, during the year 2018, filing improper or failing to file the proper employee tax forms with the state. Mm-hmm. Now there seems to be a little bit more to it than that.
Yeah, there are claims that that some of the documents were filed
erroneously.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
I don't know.
Purposefully wrong?
Yeah.
Incorrectly?
Some claims of tax fraud. But Ben Riggs, the communications director, says there was no tax fraud. The city was late filing payroll taxes, and the Department of Revenue has waived those fees. But from Shericka Field...
Pardon me. The Department of Revenue of the state of Louisiana has waived, according to Mr. Ben,
right,
the $189,000 two-tiered fine.
And the penalties will be reimbursed to the city of Shreveport. I'm going to check on that today. This is an email from Shericka Fields Jones to John Nicholson, other members of the council, and the mayor. And it says the subject is regarding Charles Madden, who's the director of finance. Okay. Councilman, I appreciate your concerns. I'm asking the committee to please give us time to correct this without making the situation worse. I am yet...
Wait. What does she mean, make the situation worse? Go public?
I guess. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I am not yet confident that our finance department is not heavily reliant on Mr. Madden's knowledge and expertise.
Wait. There, ding, ding, ding. So
there's going to be lots of dings here.
What did I say to you during the break? I said to you during the break, did I read Ms. Fields Jones' email correctly, the one back to Mr. Nicholson and the council, where it basically said, yeah, we might have a problem, but we can't really get rid of this guy because he knows a lot. And I don't mean he knows a lot like crooked stuff. I mean, we are dependent on him to run that department.
Right. I wish we could
What
fix...
are we going to do?
I wish we could fix, she says. She goes on to say, I wish we could fix the concern overnight, but especially we won't fix it any faster by abruptly eliminating staff that carries out significant number of operational matters without first completing the assessments and cross-training that has already started. We have seen significant progress since the appointment of the deputy director. She and the finance director have been working closely with staff on succession planning.
Now, somewhere in there, and maybe it was in a later email, a later communication, there is also part of the story, or maybe it was in the Times story, about Madden was considering or the possibility of him retiring.
Yes, dear Shericka, this comes from Mr. Nicholson. The members of the audit committee believe the time has come for Mr. Madden to retire. Concern about his management of the finance department predates my election to the council, and many of these operational deficiencies disclosed by our external audit are inexplicable and inexcusable. We have discussed a vote of no confidence in Mr. Madden, but that will not be necessary if he chooses to retire. So that's where we are. And this is a really great piece in the Shreveport Times. Mr. Nicholson will join us at 8:20 this morning to discuss this. Let's
go back just a little bit. We did get an email from Ben Riggs, Mayor's communications guy, yesterday. And do you have that in front of you, or do you have it?
The email from Mr. Riggs?
From Ben, yes, about the situation. He says, we don't think there was purposeful...
Right. He says there was no tax fraud. The city was late filing payroll tax withholdings. The Department of Revenue has waived those fees, and the penalties will be reimbursed to the city of Shreveport.
Okay.
We need to check on that.
Some days the shows just write themselves.
Oh, my goodness.
Guest list this morning at 7:10. Wait. I'll tell you about that when we get back.
Okay.
At 7:20, We have anybody on the docket at 7? Is everybody right now stacked in the 8 o'clock hour?
No, 7:10. We have
Erspamer.
Yes.
Daniel Erspamer's in
Yes.
town from Pelican Institute. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who else?
coming up at 8:20. We have John Nicholson. I'm going to make a call.
No. We'll talk about that when we get back.
Okay.
And if you did not hear our conversation about the illegal immigrant detention centers on the border yesterday.
They're drinking out of toilets, man.
Settle down there, AOC. Why don't you just give Brian Salvatore a like? 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Ruben.
Starting things off looking nice and clear for your early morning drive to work, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-20 westbound near the Texas state line due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at the Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
High pressure over the Central Plains continues to remain in control of our weather. Beautiful weather expected to remain with us here through the rest of the week. Maybe a pop-up shower over the weekend. Sunshine today, 87. Clear tonight, 67. Sunshine tomorrow, high 90. Friday, sunny skies, 92. Richard Wettig of the Weather Channel.
Of information. KEEL News now.
Former special counsel Robert Mueller testifies before two House committees about his investigation into Russian election interference. Griff Jenkins breaks down the itinerary for the day.
A 5-minute opening statement from the chairman, Democrat Jerry Nadler. That'll be followed by a 5-minute opening statement by ranking member Doug Collins. Then they'll swear special counsel Mueller in. He'll deliver his opening statement, and the questions will begin. There's going to be a lot of questions. There's 41 members.
Democrats say they want to probe Mueller on the obstruction of justice accusations against the president, while Republicans say the left is beating a dead hoax. The Shreveport Council voted 5-2 to approve Councilman James Green's request to declare an emergency in District F.
There was a young man came up here once, and he spoke to this council, and he said publicly, Councilman Green, your district is messed up. It is the worst district in this city. I didn't do it. It didn't happen overnight, but we're going to get it worked out.
Mayor Adrian Perkins chimed in.
Some of our own community members often talk like we're in Baghdad, Iraq. I've been to Baghdad, Iraq, and this is not that. The statistics show that.
But the mayor does support Green's effort to find solutions to high crime numbers in District F. Did the city of Shreveport commit tax fraud? According to the Shreveport Times, the city may have knowingly filed false payroll tax forms to avoid paying penalties and interest. In an email exchange between Councilman John Nicholson and City CAO Sharika Fields-Jones, Nicholson says an external auditor made the discovery and that immediate action needs to be taken. However, the mayor's communications manager denies the tax fraud allegations and says the city filed late in 2018 and the state has waived those penalties. An area businessman pleads guilty to fraud charges. Matt Parker with that.
Gregory Smith has pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Smith convinced his clients to invest $3.5 million in the historic Chinese bonds. However, not only are the bonds no longer recognized by the Chinese government, but Smith and his partners allegedly split the $3.5 million between themselves. Smith faces 5 to 7 years in prison and could be forced to pay over $1 million in restitution. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
The Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control now accepting permit applications from businesses who want to make home delivery of alcohol. They're expected to be approving those permits early next month. Meantime, on the alcohol front, the City Council has once again delayed voting on a proposed ordinance that would require grocery stores to have a separate building entrance to sell hard liquor. The ordinance has been delayed so it can be reworded and reworked. 2 Republican senators introducing a resolution to declare Antifa a domestic terror organization. Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana is one of them. He tells Fox and Friends he's concerned that violent protest is getting more common.
This sort of violence should not be tolerated on the right or the left. It is about allowing Americans their Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom of association, without being assaulted by anarchists.
This follows a recent incident in Portland, Oregon. Perry Norcross, former teacher accused of sexually molesting children, has requested that his trial be moved out of Bossier Parish. Norcross faces dozens of charges, including video voyeurism, molestation, and rape. His attorney presented 92 pages of articles from local news outlets covering Norcross's arrest. The attorney says this is the most pretrial publicity he's ever seen. The motion was deferred by the judge, who said he wanted to wait until potential jurors were interviewed before making a ruling. As students gear up to head back to class, the National Retail Federation forecasting record spending. Families with elementary school through high school students are planning to spend an average of nearly $700. College families will shell out about $1,000. Spokesman Mark Matthews says nationwide spending is nearly $80 million.
In total, households will be spending $1,673.48 on back to school and back to college, and that is a record, almost 3% higher than what we saw last year.
The biggest items for K through 12 students is electronics, followed by clothing and accessories. I'm Erin McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
.101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. KEEL app is a free download from Office Furniture Source.
Don't call now.
You can call anytime you want. It's not like it's going to matter.
No, I'm going to wait.
Okay, so yesterday at the City Council meeting, Reverend Councilman James Green and his emergency declaration or martial law or bring in the troops or whatever the heck he was asking for. What did his official... Now, wait a second. You go back a couple of days. You said... Your original story, his original comments were a state of emergency. I said
a state of public emergency.
What does that mean? That's what we were asking,
and
everybody was
talking.
like, we don't know what that is.
He wasn't talking. But he's been working for many, many months on a plan, putting a plan together apparently that would bring together churches, residents, citizens groups, civic groups, and the police and state police, the sheriff, etc., and the city marshal to help fight crime in his district. He looked at the numbers going back to January of 2018.
They are pretty bad.
They're pretty bad. They're pretty bad.
So what did the mayor have to say about all this? What did the other council people, what actually happened at the meeting yesterday?
Well, they took some issue. Some council members took issue with calling it a state of public emergency. So he stood up and he said, I'll change the words.
Is it just semantics at that point?
Yes.
I mean, you can declare it anything you want, but it's not like who can do what depending on what you declare.
I don't know if it's a state of public emergency. Can then the National Guard be called in?
I mean, do they go full foghorn leghorn? I do declare, and then the cops show up?
I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that's how it works. But he wants his plan implemented, at least discussed with civic groups, etc. He did come under fire from some, like the Cedar Grove Homeowner Residents Association, also the Moortown.
For what?
That they hadn't even heard from him. Why haven't you talked to us about this? Why haven't we been in on developing this plan?
In other words,
this is our neighborhood.
Like the Reverend's going rogue here.
That's kind of what they accused him of.
Was there some kind of vote? Was there some kind of resolution?
There was.
What happened?
There was a vote. They took out state of public, and they just declare it's a resolution declaring an emergency in District F.
Does this mean anything to anyone?
Not really. It's a plan that he will now, go back to the churches. He'll go sit down with the police agencies and see if they can work together to develop
the Reverend is basically just shining a spotlight on the problem and saying somebody's got to do something. And I'm rattling, as you say, rattling the cage once again.
That's pretty much what he's doing. He is saying that his plan can be implemented, citywide. If it works in District F, it could be used citywide. Now, 2 council members, interestingly enough, voted against him. And I'm going to see if you can guess which 2. You're not going to get it.
I think I know, though.
Who?
I think, what did you say? Fuller.
Did I tell you?
Yeah, you were muttering.
Oh.
You were muttering off air.
Okay.
Fuller and Flurry? Fuller and Butcher?
Nope.
Who was it? Fuller and?
Bowman.
Really?
Voted against him.
Interesting. Cover this a little bit later. We got to go because we've got...
And I want to call him. I'm going to call him. I promise.
He has not answered your calls since the day he was elected. You called him 4 times yesterday.
I feel like I have Ebola or something.
4 more times yesterday.
Man.
And he has not responded. So you go ahead and you call him all you want.
All right.
Well, hold on. You said since he got elected. She's been calling him since he announced he was running it.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't picked up the phone.
I don't know what's going on.
Senator Bill Cassidy down at the border. And we talked to him yesterday about that. Find out what he saw. That's coming up next. Here's Ruben.
Starting things off looking nice and clear for your early morning drive to work, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-20 westbound near the Texas state line due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at the Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
The high pressure over the Central Plains continues to remain in control of our weather. Beautiful weather expected to remain with us here through the rest of the week. Maybe a pop-up shower over the weekend. Sunshine today, 87. Clear tonight, 67. Sunshine tomorrow, high 90. Friday, sunny skies, 92. Richard Wettig, the Weather Channel.
1017 FM, 710 Keel, Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. We only had about 5 minutes yesterday with Dr. Senator Bill Cassidy. And he has a lot of crazy Democrat claims about what's going on at the border in the detention centers, the holding centers, the facilities where illegal immigrants are being detained.
Right.
And that's kind of where we started. You've been down south. You've been to the border. Tell us about your trip.
It was a really remarkable trip. So what has happened is that, not to be partisan, but to lay out like it is, congressional Democrats have not given money to ICE to create beds. So folks are detained. They come in a holding cell, if you will, by Border Patrol, and they've got no place to send them. And so you get more and more and more people, and you end up at overcapacity, and then Democrats come down and say, congressional Democrats come down and say, isn't it terrible, we're at overcapacity? Of course it's overcapacity. You won't agree with Republicans to give more beds for where to send the folks. I think congressional Democrats are more concerned about having an issue to campaign on than they are about finding a solution to the problem.
Senator, what's the top priority there? Is it cash?
Cash is short term because you got to do something when you are double bunking and triple bunking. You got to. On the other hand, long term, intermediate term, we got to change the laws. We've got a set of laws which basically encourage people to immigrate to the United States. It's no longer just Central Americans. We walk in, where are you from? Cuba and Venezuela. By the way, they're catching folks from Cameroon, from Haiti, from Somalia, from China, India, Russia, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I mean, it's now the United Nations coming across the Texas border because our laws encourage them to do so.
But Dr. Bill, aren't the Democrats really just at the end of the day implementing what's it called, the Cloward and Piven theory? We'll just overwhelm the system and break it down so we can get our way.
Well, you know what the terrible thing is? If that's what they're doing, then they're collaborating with drug cartels, because drug cartels use the fact that our Border Patrol is stretched so thinly, catching folks coming here illegally, then they can more easily sneak across drugs. So we're out at like 10 or 11 at night with Border Patrol trying to capture people, and they know that there's this group of men in these cane fields. They have dogs trying to get them out, and all of a sudden over the radio you hear 1046 coming across. Well, that's a drug shipment. And so while all this is taking place, Border Patrol is isolated, then comes across the cocaine or the methamphetamines, et cetera. So we've got an issue, and if Democrats are doing that, then they could not be collaborating even better with the folks on the other side who are trying to destroy our nation with illegal drugs.
Ocasio-Cortez, other members of the squad, their concentration camps, people are drinking out of toilets.
We're not giving them water.
The situation is inhumane. It's Nazi-esque.
Did you see any of that?
So I did not. You do see overcapacity, but that goes back to what I was speaking of. Those are detention cells. Imagine, Erin, last time you were arrested by Shreveport police, they brought you to, I'm just teasing, Erin, they brought you to a detention cell, but then you quickly moved to the jail, and from there you moved someplace else.
Uh-huh.
The equivalent, Border Patrol takes people caught at the border, they're bringing them to holding areas that's supposed to only hold people for 30 hours, but they've got no beds to send them to, no next place to go, because those are run by ICE, and the squad and the Democratic Party following the squad refuses to give funding, to agree to funding for these extra beds. So there's no place for the detention, the holding area, the temporary holding area to send people. And it just gets more and more and more full. So, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think the Democratic Party, following the lead of the squad, is more interested in having a campaign issue than in finding a solution.
1017 FM, 710 Keel. Traffic update for Wednesday. Here's Ruben.
Looks like 3132's got it all clear for your early morning drive to work, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-49 northbound near Kings Highway. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at the Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Well, high pressure over the central plains continues to remain in control of our weather. Beautiful weather expected to remain with us here through the rest of the week. Maybe a pop-up shower over the weekend. Sunshine today, 87. Clear tonight, 67. Sunshine tomorrow, high 90. Friday, sunny skies, 92. Richard Wettig, the Weather Channel.
If Shreveport Bossier is talking about it, so are we. 1017 FM and 710 KEEL.
This is Matthew Lynn, the Caddo Parish Commissioner for District 4, and we love Robert and Erin in the morning.
We are KEEL. 1017 FM and 710 KEEL. KEEL.
Right now, 66 degrees, 1017 FM, 710 KEEL 650. Your money now. One 1017 FM, 710 KEEL. Time for sports. Here's Fletch.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. CBS Sports' John Rothstein reported Tuesday that LSU will play Texas in Austin on January 25th as part of the annual SEC Big 12 Challenge in college basketball. The matchup will bring Tigers head coach Will Wade into battle against his former boss at Virginia Commonwealth, Longhorns head coach Shaka Smart. Arkansas will host TCU, and Texas A&M will entertain Oklahoma State in the annual soiree. The Saints placed Sheldon Rankins on the physically unable to perform list in advance of training camp opening on Friday. Rankins tore his Achilles against the Eagles in the playoffs back on January 13th, but his recovery and rehab has been promising. The PUP designation will allow the Saints to add Rankins to the roster at any point before or after the season begins. New Orleans Pelicans rookie Zion Williamson signed an apparel deal with the Jordan brand for a reported $10 million a year. Michael Jordan said of his new protege, "He told us he would shock the world and asked us to believe him." We do. In Major League Baseball, the Oakland A's rallied from a 2-0 deficit to take a 3-2 lead in the ninth on a 3-run home run from Matt Olson, and then they won it in 11 on a Ramon Laureano ground rule double. Yuli Gurriel, by the way, had his first inside-the-park home run for the Astros. And the Rangers snapped an 8-game losing streak with a 7-2 win over Seattle. Rougned Odor had 2 home runs, and Nomar Mazara reached the third deck with a mashed tater. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
101.7 FM, 710 Keel, Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Pelican Institute guy Daniel Erspamer in studio at about 7:10. And Councilman John Nicholson, 8:20, right? And you're going to try Councilman Green here in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to call him in just a couple minutes, see if he takes
Here's
the
what
call.
you could do.
This is the day. I feel it. This is the day.
Why don't you dial his number, hold your breath until he answers?
Okay. I might do that.
I'm drowning. Wow. There's no chance.
Not a chance.
How many times have you, we talked about this later in the show yesterday, since he was elected, since he knocked off Ms. Stephanie Lynch for that council seat last fall?
20, 30, maybe. This will be 21 or 31 this morning.
Have you spoken to Reverend Green? If you've left 25 messages, how many of those has he responded?
He's prayed for me.
That's what you think.
That's on his voicemail.
But you hold your breath when he calls.
Yeah.
101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Rush.
Elizabeth Warren. Do you know she used to represent DuPont against women who suffered damages from breast implants? She was a corporate. Do you know that about her? Anyway, she says that we are now headed for an economic crash. As an Indian, she says she can see the smoke signals. The warning lights are flashing, she says. Might even happen this year or next year, but the odds are high. According to Warren, America's economy is very fragile. It's not booming. Manufacturing's in the tank. Household and corporate debt sky high. One little economic shock and the whole thing is going to collapse. Worse than 2008. It's all Trump's fault because of his trade war with the Chi-Coms. But she says that she, Elizabeth Warren, can save us. She says that we can cut household debt by forgiving $50,000 of student loans for every family. We can help unions grow. We can raise the minimum wage. We can enact her green plan for manufacturing. Now, this, my friends, is what fear-mongering looks like. Claim there's a crisis when there isn't one, and then sell a fake solution of gigantic government growth that would screw everything up. The economy really is booming. It did not happen with a magic wand or by accident. It's due to policies from President Trump. And all the lying and all the fear-mongering cannot and will not change that. Do you know that nearly 1 in 4 people have experienced identity theft? It can happen and happen out of nowhere. That was Dot's experience with identity theft. She heard about LifeLock right here on this program. And after learning about how hackers and thieves steal people's identities, Dot and her husband decided to sign up with LifeLock. And boy, were they grateful they did. Dot had 26 identity theft alerts in just 4 months. Thanks to LifeLock, she was able to decline the charges before more damage was done. It could have taken months, maybe even years, for her to resolve these problems on her own. LifeLock's restoration team helped Dot resolve these issues quickly. Now, folks, no one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock can detect threats that you might miss on your own. Go to LifeLock.com or call 800-440-4833. Use the promo code RUSH for an extra 10% off your first year.
The intersection at Line Avenue and Piermont Road is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Olmenden Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at the Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Keel Weather Channel forecast, sunny, lower humidity, cooler temps today, high today in the low to mid-80s. Right now, 67 degrees at Keel, 7 o'clock, Fox News.
Breaking news and trending talk. This is 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. KEEL, Shreveport.